Hello, friend. Pull up a chair on the porch with me for a moment, before the coffee pot sighs and the headlines start their parade. Have you noticed your grocery bags feel heavier than they did last summer, or that it takes two tries to rise from the garden bench when you used to spring up on the first? Have your calves pinched during a slow walk to the mailbox, or has your favorite jar suddenly felt stubborn when you twist the lid? Those quiet shifts aren't just getting old. They can be the earliest whispers of sarcopenia muscle loss with age, and they're exactly the kind of whispers we can answer with a small, delicious change at breakfast that doesn't require you to choke down another egg if you're tired of them, can't chew them comfortably, or they just don't sit well with your stomach anymore. Let me say this plainly. Eggs are a fine food, but they're not the only way to tell your muscles. Wake up, rebuild. After 70, the body needs a louder knock to begin repair, and that knock is protein plus leucine, a specific amino acid that acts like a foreman telling workers to start the job. The trick is to reach that signal without making your morning feel like a chore, and to choose proteins that are easy to chew and easy to digest so you actually eat them. The best breakfast is the one that happens every day in a real American kitchen, not a magazine spread. If eggs aren't your favorite, there are superb substitutes that may help you rebuild muscle, steady your legs, and support heart health by keeping you moving. Greek yogurt and skyr, cottage cheese, tofu and soy milk, soft fish like salmon, and even a small, thoughtful protein shake when chewing is hard. They're not a cure, and they don't work in a week like a commercial promises, but they can support healthy aging in a way you'll feel every time you stand, and the world holds steady. Before we open the fridge, here's the simple biology, in the kind of plain English a neighbor would use across a fence. Sarcopenia happens for many reasons: hormone changes, less movement because life tilts towards screens and sofas, illnesses that stole your appetite, medications that blunt hunger or cause cramps, the way big dinners push breakfast off the plate. Muscles are built from amino acids, and leucine is the starter pistol. Older muscle is a little hard of hearing, so you need more protein at one sitting to get the same build and repair signal you used to get with less. That's why people over 70 often do better with 25 to 30 grams of protein at a meal and at least 2 grams of leucine, roughly a generous palm of high-quality protein, especially at breakfast when your day's work begins. Coffee alone won't do it. A pastry won't do it. A bowl of plain fruit won't do it. But a bowl of Greek yogurt or skyr, a cup of cottage cheese blended into a smoothie, a soft tofu scramble, or a small portion of salmon tucked into an avocado roll-up will. These are anti-aging foods not because the label says so, but because they supply the raw materials your muscles understand. I know what you're thinking. Yogurt is cold. Tofu is unfamiliar. Fish in the morning feels fancy. Let me show you what this looks like in a real house on a real Tuesday. There's a linoleum squeak near the sink you've known for years. A small cuff sits by the fruit bowl because you're keeping an eye on your blood pressure, the way you check the sky for rain. You drink a glass of water first to rinse the night from your blood, thin it enough so the heart's push doesn't have to be dramatic when you stand. You step into the doorway and let your eyes meet the early light for a minute. That light is your master clock, whispering, "This is morning." The warm-up cue that helps your energy show up on time now and your sleep behave tonight. You walk the hallway or the block for 8 to 12 minutes, unhurried, enough to wake the calf pump that pushes blood up through the one-way doors in your veins. Then you come back to the kitchen and choose a protein that isn't eggs, because you'd like a change, or because chewing is tricky, or because eggs and you are on a break. Start with Greek yogurt or skyr. They're strained, so they're thicker and pack more protein in a small cup than ordinary yogurt, and they're soft enough for tender teeth or dentures. The bowl can be savory or sweet. One morning you'll stir in a heaping spoon of peanut butter and a handful of berries and chopped walnuts. Another morning you'll splash in a little soy milk, sprinkle cinnamon, and crumble in a few whole grain flakes for crunch. If you want the muscle signal to be loud without swallowing a mountain, you can add a small scoop of unflavored whey or soy isolate. Half a scoop is often enough to lift the protein to that 25 to 30 gram zone and nudge leucine up toward the target. If the word isolate sounds like lab talk, think of it as a filtered milk or soy protein that dissolves smoothly. It's just a tool on the workbench, not a magic powder. The point is an easy bowl that you finish without a fight because it tastes like something you'd make for a friend. On a different morning, you scramble soft tofu. Don't picture a science experiment. Picture a warm, savory plate that behaves like scrambled eggs without the egg. You rinse a block of silken or soft tofu, crumble it into a warm pan with a little olive oil, add a pinch of salt and pepper, maybe turmeric for golden color, and fold in finely chopped mushrooms and spinach that wilt in a minute. If you like a cheesy note, a sprinkle of nutritional yeast does the trick. The texture is tender, the protein generous, and your stomach will thank you for how easy it is to digest. If you want to turn the volume up on leucine, the starter pistol, add a handful of thawed edamame on the side, or a splash of soy milk as you cook. Soy happens to be one of nature's best plant sources of leucine. That single plate, soft and warm, can carry you through the morning without the crash your old toast and jam routine kept delivering. And some days the answer is a spoonable smoothie because chewing feels like too much at sunrise. A blender makes a breakfast that goes down easy and still sends the right signal. You tip in cottage cheese, yes. Cottage cheese which vanishes into creaminess, without the curds. Announcing themselves, add a cup of soy milk or dairy milk, toss in frozen berries and half a banana, and, if you like, a small scoop of whey or soy protein to close the gap. The result is a glass that tastes like a treat and lets your muscles know it's time to rebuild. Cottage cheese is a quiet star in senior nutrition. It's high in protein, rich in calcium for bones and heart rhythm, and famously gentle on teeth and gums. Many people who don't love it by the spoon discover they love it in a smoothie, where it disappears except for the way it keeps you steady until lunch. I want you to meet Ruth and Leo, neighbors from any American cul-de-sac. Ruth is 73 and swore she was over eggs after a lifetime of diners and church brunches. She also kept noticing that she cooked, then picked at her plate because chewing was work and reflux was a bully. Her calves cramped when she gardened, and stairs started to feel like hills. She tried the yogurt route because it sounded obvious and easy. She replaced toast with a skyer bowl that included peanut butter and berries 3 mornings a week, and tofu scramble on the others. She still had her coffee, let's not pretend otherwise, but she invited it to sit beside breakfast, not replace it. In 3 weeks, she told me she didn't need the mid-morning raid on the pantry. Her walks felt less like negotiations, and the garden reclaimed its joy. No miracle, just better fuel. Leo is 69 with a smile that makes the clerk at the hardware store wave from across the aisle. He had a statin-induced muscle ache a few years back and started skipping breakfast because he thought it would keep his weight down. It did the opposite. He ended up hungrier at night. He went the smoothie route because he drives his grandkids to school and wanted something portable. Cottage cheese plus soy milk plus frozen cherries plus a splash of vanilla and half a scoop of protein powder became his lane. He scribbled, "No cramps," on the notepad on his fridge after mowing the lawn for the first time this year. Different kitchens, same principle. Easy to chew, easy to digest, strong enough to be heard by older muscle. Let's talk bioavailability for a second, in a way that respects your time. Not all proteins are digested and used the same way. Think of them as choirs with different voices. Whey. Dairy proteins like skyr and cottage cheese and soy are particularly clear singers. They're rich in essential amino acids and relatively high in leucine, and the body uses them efficiently. Fish and poultry do this well too, and soft textures like canned salmon or tuna mixed with a little yogurt make them easier to chew. Beans and grains are excellent team players. Paired together over the day, they build a complete choir, and when you lean on soy or add a modest supplement, the signal gets even clearer. Eggs are classics. But they're not the only A students in the class. What matters most after 70 is that the protein you choose is both high quality and actually eaten. A perfect food you can't chew is worse than an imperfect food you finish happily. This is why smooth bowls, soft scrambles, and spoonable shakes can be best foods for seniors at breakfast. They remove obstacles. There are helpers and troublemakers in a typical US morning, and timing is everything. Coffee first and alone can nudge your heart rate and steal appetite, exactly when you need to feed your muscles. The same coffee alongside a yogurt bowl behaves like a civilized companion. Big screens at night push your inner clock later, so appetite drifts toward the evening. A few minutes of morning light pulls the day back into rhythm and makes breakfast feel natural instead of forced. Some medicines suppress hunger or cause cramps. Diuretics do their important job, but can leave you a little dry. And statins sometimes bring muscle aches to the party. No one's asking you to stop a medicine without guidance. We're asking you to pay attention to timing, hydration, and protein at breakfast so side effects don't steal your morning. This is prevention over repair, not in theory, but in your kitchen. You might wonder which small signs suggest muscle loss has crept in. Whispers include a slower walk without trying, difficulty carrying laundry up the stairs, a softer handshake than you remember, or needing to push off the chair with your hands. Calf cramps that arrive when dinner was salty and the day was still can also whisper. These are not emergencies. They're invitations to feed muscle and move it gently. Sirens are different. A sudden weakness on one side of the body, new confusion, chest pressure that spreads or won't let go, breath so short you can't finish a sentence at rest, a calf that becomes hot, red, swollen, and very tender, while the other is fine. Those require urgent care now. Calm is not delay. Calm is knowing the difference and acting. If you're ready to bring this to your clinician, and I hope you bring a tiny home diary for 2 weeks so the conversation uses your life, not guesswork. Each morning, note your blood pressure if you're monitoring it, your breakfast protein choice, and how you felt standing and walking by afternoon. If cramps visit, jot when they arrived, what you'd eaten and drunk, and what helped. Expect simple labs to be considered. A complete blood count if fatigue is heavy. A metabolic panel to look at electrolytes like sodium and potassium and your kidney function. A vitamin D level if bones and muscles are on the agenda. B12 if numb toes or low appetite lurk some stomach meds and metformin, quietly lower B12 over time. A TSH if thyroid has been moody, sometimes creatine kinase, if muscle pains are loud, and, if weight loss is unplanned, a conversation about appetite support. If your clinician can order it, a DEXA or a simple bioimpedance test may look at lean mass. A hand grip meter can be as informative as a speech when it comes to senior health. None of these tests define you. They aim the plan. Dietitians can help you hit those protein targets with foods you'll actually buy and eat. Physical therapists can turn hallway strolls into exercises for seniors at home that build power for rising from chairs and handling curbs. Let's step into 3 simple breakfasts you can keep in your back pocket. Describe the way you'd share a recipe over a fence. First is the 5-minute Skyer bowl that doesn't skimp. You scoop a generous cup into a cereal bowl. Spoon in peanut butter until it looks like you'd be proud to serve it. Tumble on frozen berries that melt as they touch the cream. And shake in a handful of chopped walnuts. If you enjoy it, dust a pinch of cinnamon over the top. On mornings when you want extra insurance, swirl in a few tablespoons of soy milk or half a scoop of unflavored whey. It disappears, except for the way the bowl carries you easily to lunch. Second is the soft tofu pan that behaves like eggs without tasting like a compromise. You warm a slick of olive oil, crumble in half a block of soft tofu, add a pinch of salt, pepper, and a dash of turmeric for color. Then fold in chopped mushrooms and a handful of spinach until it glistens. You finish with a squeeze of lemon and, if you like, a spoon of hummus stirred through for body. Third is the cottage cheese smoothie that wins over skeptics. You add a cup of cottage cheese to the blender, pour in soy milk, toss in frozen cherries and half a banana, add a splash of vanilla and a few ice cubes, then send it whirring until it tastes like a milkshake that accidentally did you a favor. Any of these can be a breakfast you actually want, which is the only kind that matters. What about lunch and dinner, when the day stretches long? The same rules apply without the pressure to eat like a lumberjack. Soft salmon salad, made with Greek yogurt instead of heavy mayo, spread in a lettuce leaf or rolled in a half tortilla, hits the mark without a wrestling match. A bean and barley soup with shredded rotisserie chicken or cubed tofu becomes a bowl you can keep in the fridge and reheat without a plan. A baked potato split open and filled with cottage cheese and chives tastes like diner food that forgot to be troublesome. Evening meals with friends that feature salt and wine can still be part of senior wellness. Set a glass of water beside the glass of red. Lean dinner toward protein and vegetables, and let the salty treats be a taste rather than a theme. Tomorrow morning's routine: light, water, short walk, Protein will catch you. If you worry that adding protein will make your heart work too hard, remember that a strong leg makes a kind heart. When muscles do their share, especially in your hips and thighs, you move more easily and your blood pressure often behaves better through the day because your vessels and nerves love rhythm more than drama. If you've been told to watch your kidneys, that's exactly why your clinician's eyes and labs matter. They'll help you choose the right proteins and amounts. If cholesterol has been a conversation, lean on fish, soy, and dairy options that fit your goals. A routine with water first, screen light last at night, a few minutes of morning light, and a short daily walk does more for heart health for elderly adults than any supplement stack you'll see in a pop-up ad. This is longevity tips written on a grocery receipt, not a clinic wall. Season by season, the habit holds. Summer invites cold bowls and porch light. Winter suggests warm tofu scrambles and hallway steps under a favorite song. Spring smells like strawberries on Skyer. Fall tastes like cinnamon in a cottage cheese shake. Screens belong to your life, but they don't get the last word. Let a lamp sing you to sleep, not a phone. Coffee is not the enemy. It simply behaves best with breakfast. Medications keep you safe. Timing them with your morning rhythm can spare you from wobble or cramps. None of this is about perfection. It's about repeating the kindest parts of the day until the body believes you. There's a cinematic quality to an ordinary morning when it starts to work in your favor. The light is particular. The cuff does its squeeze and release, and you jot down the weather inside your arteries without letting numbers decide your mood. The glass goes empty and the mouth stops feeling like paper. The sky tells your brain the truth about time. The walk opens the little doors in your veins and the dog on the corner cocks its head. Back home, a bowl or a pan or a blender gives you a breakfast that doesn't fight you, and the coffee sounds like a song you've always loved. The afternoon arrives and you carry the grocery bag without telling your legs a pep talk. Evening fades with a meal that tastes like a real life and not a clinic handout. The lamp clicks off and you know you've done what is yours to do. That's senior health in plain clothes. That's a healthy lifestyle for seniors. You can live tomorrow without perfect weather or perfect resolve. It's prevention stitched into flavor and light. If this felt like a neighbor's invitation rather than a lecture, good. Share it with someone who needs breakfast to be easy again, a spouse who can't face eggs, a friend who thinks cottage cheese is a relic until they taste it in a smoothie, a brother who jokes that tofu is for other people. Tell them it's not about being other people. It's about giving older muscle a voice it can hear with foods you can buy in any American store and eat in any American kitchen. Like this if it helped. Subscribe so the next chapter finds you without you having to chase it, and share it with the person whose hands struggled with a jar lid last week. The porch will still be here in the morning. The light will still arrive. Your muscles will still listen if you speak clearly, and your heart will thank your legs for showing up. The second you ask, why? You give your body a chance to answer in plain English. Why do some breakfasts help older muscle wake up while others leave you dragging a grocery bag like it's filled with bricks? Because after 70, muscle doesn't respond to whispers. It listens for a clear, specific signal. That signal is protein arriving in enough quantity at one time, roughly a generous palm at breakfast, and carrying a louder note called leucine. Protein is a bundle of building blocks called amino acids. Leucine is the foreman that steps onto the job site and says, "Start repairing now." When you were 40, eggs alone often gave a loud enough knock. Now you may need different tools or a bigger knock, especially if chewing is hard, reflux is bossy, or appetite shows up late. That is why Greek yogurt and skyr, cottage cheese, soy milk and tofu, and soft fish can feel like the right key in the right lock. They are easy to finish, easy to digest, and rich enough in the right building blocks that your muscles hear the message, rebuild. The next why sits behind that glass of morning water and that quick step into daylight before you open the refrigerator. Overnight, you breathe and sweat a little. You lose moisture quietly. That makes the blood you wake with a bit thicker, like soup left on low heat. A tall glass brings it back toward easy flow so your heart doesn't need to pound when you stand. Early light hits sensors behind your eyes and sets the master clock in your brain. Think of it as the conductor's baton. The baton tells hormones, blood pressure, appetite, and sleep what time it is in your zip code, not on your screen. That is why breakfast feels more natural when you've taken a minute with the morning sky. and why people who let light lead often find they sleep better after 70 without collecting more bottles on the nightstand. Then there's the short walk, the hallway loop, the porch to mailbox shuffle, the quiet aisle at the big store. Your calves are pumps, and steps are the handle. Each step squeezes veins and opens tiny way doors so blood climbs back toward the heart instead of sulking at the ankles. When you come home, your legs are ready to use the nutrients you give them instead of complaining all afternoon. Now for the part that lives in American kitchens. Coffee is part of the morning story for many of us. On an empty stomach, it can tug your heart rate a little and steal appetite right when older muscle needs a clear knock. Pair that same cup with a Skyer bowl or a cottage cheese smoothie and coffee. Becomes a companion instead of a saboteur. Screens are part of our nights. They pull the clock later and soften morning appetite. Let a lamp be the last light and the sky be the first, and breakfast stops feeling like an argument. Big dinners, the kind with salt and second helpings and friends at the table, are part of living well. Salt invites water into the bloodstream and can push the morning's top number on your cuff a bit higher. You don't scold yourself. You prepare. Water first, light early, a short walk, and a protein-forward breakfast, and you watch the numbers drift back over the next mornings because you used prevention instead of repair. If you're wondering whether all proteins are equal, imagine them as different choirs. Egg is a classic soprano. Clear, balanced, easy to use. Whey, Greek yogurt, Skyer, cottage cheese, and soy sing in that same register, rich in essential amino acids, with a good dose of leucine, and the body tends to use them efficiently. Fish and poultry sing beautifully too, and soft preparations make them gentler to chew. Beans and grains are strong harmonizers. They complete the choir over the day, and when breakfast leans on soy or dairy, the signal becomes clear enough that the older muscle hears it the first time. The catch is digestion and comfort. A perfect protein you can't or won't eat is worse than an imperfect one you finish happily. That is why spoonable bowls and sippable shakes are quiet heroes in senior nutrition. They deliver the message without making your mouth or stomach work harder than they want to at sunrise. Listen for whispers before they turn into speeches. Whispers of sarcopenia include a slower walking speed without trying, standing from a low chair by pushing with your hands, trouble carrying a laundry basket, a handshake softer than you remember, or calves that cramp after a day spent sitting and scrolling. Those are invitations. They respond to a little more protein early, a glass of water first, a few minutes of morning light, and an 8 to 12-minute stroll. Sirens are different and demand speed, not patience. Chest pressure that spreads or won't let go. Breath so short you can't finish a sentence at rest. A new, one-sided weakness or face droop, words that won't arrive, or one calf that turns hot, red, swollen, and very tender while the other is fine. Those are seek urgent care now, not wait for the next appointment. Calm isn't delay. Calm is knowing the difference. The best ally you can bring to your clinician is a small, honest diary, not a perfect one. For 2 weeks, give each morning a line. If you track pressure, write the push and the pause, and your pulse. Add what breakfast protein you actually ate. Note how you felt standing, and how your legs behaved by afternoon. If cramps visited, jot the time, what the day looked like. Long car rides, screens late, a salty dinner, a diuretic early, not enough water and what helped. Bring the brand of your cuff, or a photo of its screen if that's easier. Write down your medicines and when you actually take them, including over-the-counter items and supplements. That small map turns guesswork into patterns. With it, expect practical tests to be considered, not as labels, but as flashlights. A basic or comprehensive metabolic panel looks at electrolytes like sodium and potassium, and at kidney function, both relevant to cramps and blood pressure. A complete blood count can explain fatigue if anemia is lurking. A lipid panel is the long-game check for heart health. Vitamin D plays quietly in bone and muscle health. B12 matters for nerves and appetite, and can drop with certain stomach meds or metformin. Thyroid, TSH, can make muscles tired when it slumps. If muscle pains are loud and new, creatine kinase might be checked. If you've had unplanned weight loss, that earns a conversation and perhaps a closer look. A simple hand grip test or a 5 sit-to-stand timing can say as much as a paragraph about daily strength. If insurance and access allow, a DEXA scan or bioimpedance can estimate lean mass, but your gait speed and ability to rise from a chair matter just as much in real life. If walking always triggers calf pain at the same distance, an ankle brachial index compares pressure at your ankle and arm to look for narrowed arteries that want a different walking plan. None of these replace the routine. They help aim it. It helps to see why through another person's kitchen window. Consider Eileen, 75, who insisted she was not a breakfast person and sipped coffee while scrolling headlines until noon. She started writing down what her mornings felt like because her daughter asked her to. The log showed a pattern she didn't expect. Calf cramps on days with coffee alone, a steadier afternoon on the rare days she ate at church brunch, and lightheadedness after long hot showers. She didn't change everything. She changed 3 things. Water first, light in the doorway for a minute, and a cottage cheese smoothie she could sip while she read. Within 2 weeks, she stopped keeping crackers in the car for emergency energy. The cramps still visited on the days she forgot herself, but now she knew why and what to do next time. Prevention beat repair because prevention finally fit her life. Or look at Carl, 72, who loved 2 eggs and bacon but couldn't face them anymore because chewing took the joy out of mornings. He learned a tofu scramble with mushrooms and spinach felt like the same warm comfort and landed softly in his stomach. He added a handful of thawed edamame on the side because I told him soy carries leucine like a pro, and he liked feeling like he'd outsmarted a crossword clue. His evening walks got longer without trying. Not magic. Materials delivered to a job site that had been waiting. American habits can help or hinder, and the difference is mostly timing and layout. If your first light is a rectangle of phone blue at midnight, your appetite clock slides later and breakfast feels forced. Turn the phone into a kitchen sleeper, let a lamp sing you to bed, and morning appetite returns. If dinner is a festival of salt, pour a glass of water while you laugh, and another before bed. Then let tomorrow's short walk and protein-forward breakfast do the balancing. Numbers rise and fall because you are alive, not because you failed. If a diuretic leaves you dry and a bit wobbly at the sink, ask whether its timing can move so it does its good work without stacking with hot steam and an empty stomach. If a statin leaves your legs grumbly, tell your clinician and bring that log so adjustments are anchored in your life, not in memory. The word bioavailability sounds like a book chapter when all you wanted was breakfast. So let's keep it kitchen level. Imagine 2 bowls with 20 grams of protein each. One is ordinary yogurt, the other is Skyer. Both are useful. The thicker one usually delivers more of the essential building blocks per spoon and leaves you fuller. Now picture 2 glasses, almond milk and soy milk. The almond version is mostly flavored water. The soy version brings real protein to the table, and often more leucine. That's why a soy base plus cottage cheese in the blender can replace a plate of eggs for someone who's done with eggs for now. The idea isn't to chase numbers, it's to choose foods whose natural voices are loud enough that older muscle hears them. If you enjoy a small protein powder, choose an unflavored whey or soy isolate and use half a scoop to nudge a bowl or shake into the zone. It's a wrench in the toolbox, not the whole kit. Cramping has its own why that hides in plain sight. Muscles cramp when they're asked to fire without enough fluid on board, when blood lingers at the ankles because steps were scarce, when salt and alcohol nudged nerves to be jumpier, when shoes tilt the foot in a way that keeps the calf half-flexed all day, or when a medicine whispers, side effect, in a voice you didn't know to listen for. Your diary turns these into solvable puzzles. You try water before coffee, a hallway loop before breakfast, and a protein-forward meal. You replace the sneakers whose sole is worn flat on the outside. You ask about an electrolyte on hot days if your clinician says it suits you. You stretch with both hands on the counter heel back, gentle calf lengthening while the kettle hums. Cramps usually respond to rhythm and repair. If one calf becomes red, warm, swollen, and very tender, that is not a cramp to stretch. That is a reason to be seen now. You can line up your why answers on the counter like ingredients. Water first because the river runs low at dawn. Light early because clocks run better on sky than on screens. Steps before the day asks big favors because calves are pumps that open vein doors. Protein with a strong leucine voice because older muscle needs a louder knock. Coffee beside breakfast because appetite is precious. Screens later at night because sleep is built at sunrise. Salt used with a cook's hand because ankles and pressure are part of the audience too. Medicine timing that fits your life, not the label alone, because safety is rhythm as much as dose. None of these demand a new personality. They demand a layout. Move the glass to where the light hits the counter. Put the cuff where your hand will land. Slide the yogurt to the front. Set your shoes like arrows near the door. Turn the lamp on and tuck the phone in the kitchen. Your house will start doing half the job for you. People want to know how fast they'll feel something. That's the honest question beneath every why. The answer is gentle. The first change you usually notice is steadier mid-morning energy and fewer raids on the pantry. Next, your shoes feel the same at 3 as they did at 9 because steps happened early and blood didn't loiter at your ankles. After that, stairs behave better. Your hands find the jar lid less offensive. The garden feels more like joy than a test. Lab numbers move on their own timelines, with your clinician's help. The change in how a day feels often arrives sooner, like a neighbor showing up with a pie before the party officially starts. It's not a cure or a guarantee. It's a pattern that may help your muscles keep telling you yes. Think of this as a family plan, not a solo sport. If you live with someone, let breakfast be a small partnership. 2 bowls, 2 spoons, 1 quiet song in the kitchen. If you live alone, steal community from routine. The same window, the same walk, the same cup, the same pen, making the same line on the same card. Share what you're learning with someone who'll listen. I tried tofu this week, and it tasted like breakfast, not penance. And you'll keep yourself honest. Healthy aging spreads through houses like good recipes, not like lectures. If the day ends and you haven't done it all, do the smaller version and call it enough. Write down 1 reading instead of 2. Drink half the glass now and finish the rest while you rinse your plate. Face the window for 60 seconds. Walk for 4 minutes and smile at your stubbornness. Make a half portion of a cottage cheese shake and save the rest for mid-morning. Attempts, repeated, turn into identity. The body does not grade you on length. It rewards you for rhythm. So when you put your head on the pillow, picture tomorrow's why, answered before the day can argue. Water waits where a little square of light catches the rim. The cuff rests where your hand will land. Shoes lean together like teammates. Sky or cottage cheese or tofu sits within easy reach because you moved it there. Coffee is still invited. It simply learned its place at the table. And you, without becoming a different person, taught your muscles to listen again. The power of any routine is how well it fits inside a real day, not a perfect one. The pantry is never staged. The stairs creak. The mailbox sits at the end of a slope that changes its mood with the season. And the body you wake up in carries its own history. Knees that remember old games. A back that negotiates every bend. Hands that tire before the jar lid gives up. The goal isn't to prove anything. It's to keep saying yes to the life you already have by letting your food and your movement meet you where you stand. That's how muscle begins to rebuild without turning breakfast into homework or the hallway into a test. Start with space. Some mornings belong to an apartment that measures its generosity in steps rather than blocks. The hallway becomes your runway, not a consolation prize. 2 or 3 slow passes from door to kitchen and back are enough to wake the calf pump that pulls blood out of your ankles and returns it to your heart. If the building has an open corridor or a bright lobby early, treat it like a borrowed sidewalk. When weather bullies you January's glassy patches, August's heavy heat your route moves indoors without losing its purpose. The point is not miles, it's minutes that tell older muscle it is still hired for the job. If a cane is part of your morning, let it be a teammate, not a verdict. Hold it in the hand opposite the knee that complains. That one small change evens your stride and spares your hips the quiet twisting that steals strength over months. If a rollator waits by the door like a faithful friend, set the brakes and stand tall. Then release and let the seat become a permission slip to pause halfway down the hallway. Your calves will still do their work while your breath catches up. If you use a wheelchair, your routine keeps the same rhythm in a different frame. Sit tall near the front of the cushion, lift one knee until the heel floats, and hold the pose for a slow breath, then trade legs. Draw small circles with your ankles as if you were tracing the rim of a coin. Point and flex your feet, gentle and deliberate. Vein doors open upward all the same. Strength is participation, not performance. Knees that wake up grumpy deserve honesty and warmth, not bravado. The first minute is not for distance, but for signaling. Stand behind a sturdy chair, fingertips on the back, and do short heel raises, just enough to feel the calves greet the day without asking the knee to write a check it can't cash. Shift to toe lifts with heels anchored, waking the front of your shins that often carry more than their share when knees try to duck the invitation. If the crowd inside the joint grows loud, sit and glide your heels under the chair like you're pushing and pulling a rug. Then straighten one knee and hold, watching the thigh rise like a slow tide. Old hinges prefer oil to lectures. 2 minutes of kindness often buys 10 minutes of ease. Now, to the question your stomach asks when it meets the morning. What if eggs and I aren't friends anymore? We need breakfast proteins that are easy to chew, easy to digest, and loud enough in their leucine voice to wake older muscle. Greek yogurt and Skyer are quiet champions. They tuck 20 or more grams of protein into a small cup and arrive soft enough for tender teeth or dentures. If cold bowls weary you in winter, warm a spoonful of oats and swirl yogurt into the pot off the heat. Suddenly breakfast is warm and creamy without losing its signal. Cottage cheese disappears into almost anything. The spoonful you hide in a smoothie becomes the silk you were hoping to find. Soy milk carries real protein, where almond milk mostly carries flavor. A cup in the blender with frozen cherries and half a banana makes a shake. You can sip while the news murmurs. And if you sneak in half a scoop of unflavored whey or soy isolate, you lift the leucine enough that your muscle hears the knock. Tofu can be breakfast even if no one in your family ever called it that. A warm pan, a crumble of soft tofu, a pinch of salt, pepper, and turmeric for color. A handful of mushrooms and spinach, and you've got a plate that behaves like eggs without asking your stomach to negotiate. If you miss that buttery note, a spoonful of hummus folded in at the end makes everything feel more generous. Canned salmon doesn't care what time it is, and neither do your muscles. Fork it into a bowl with a dollop of Greek yogurt and a squeeze of lemon. Spread a scoop onto a warm half tortilla with slivered cucumber, or tuck it into halved avocado for a breakfast that tastes like a little cafe. Decided to live at your kitchen table. Soft textures are not a compromise, they're a door you can actually open. What matters biologically is that you finish the meal and deliver 25 to 30 grams of protein with at least a couple grams of leucine in one sitting, so older muscle gets the message to rebuild. Perfection never made a bicep. Repetition did. People worry about digestion as much as they worry about chewing. If reflux has you wary, keep breakfast smaller but stronger. A Skyer cup with peanut butter and berries. A tofu scramble on a plate more than a piled bowl. A cottage cheese smoothie in a glass small enough that you want the last sip. Caffeine alone can steal appetite and nudge your nerves. Coffee beside breakfast turns into the companion it was meant to be. Screens end the night with a blue lie midnight masquerading as noon and push appetite later. A lamp and a book allow morning hunger to show its face on time. Medication timing matters to stomachs as much as to blood pressure. A diuretic on a very empty belly, paired with a hot shower, can invite lightheadedness you don't need. Spacing the pill and the heat. Drinking water first, and eating a little protein before the coffee smooth the morning's curve. Statins and some antibiotics make muscles complain. That's not a reason to quit a medicine alone in the kitchen. It's a reason to speak up and bring a 2-week diary so an adjustment is grounded in your real life. Safety is a coat you put on before weather, and the morning is good weather for safety. Walk where floors don't argue. Lights that live on motion sensors don't care if your hands are full. Throw rugs, either learn to stay down or learn to leave. Shoes with honest soles serve you better than slippers that slide. The pair you love but wore flat on one edge needs to retire from morning duty. A nightlight path saves ankles and pride. Pride never stopped to fall. Rubber and rails do. If stairs are unavoidable, climb them in short lines. Steady rhythm, one landing at a time, and let your calves do what they're built for while your breath writes its own punctuation. Some of you are winter people by choice, others by zip code, but cold isn't a schedule breaker. Face the brightest window you own for your light south-facing if you can, any direction if you cannot. March your hallway while the kettle hums. If the sky offers sun, but the sidewalk looks sly, walk inside a store with wide aisles and a sleepy early crowd. A cart under your hands can stand in for a railing while you count 2 songs worth of steps. A hat and gloves are not decorations. Cold ears and fingers make vessels clamp down, which is not the wake-up you're after. When you return, warm food belongs on the plate. Tofu scrambles feel like hospitality. Oats with yogurt swirled in, topped with walnuts and cinnamon, feel like compromise turned into comfort. A cottage cheese shake does not care that the trees outside are bare. It only cares that your muscle hears it. The list of tests that might appear on a lab slip doesn't need to sound like a foreign language. A complete blood count checks for anemia that can turn days heavy and legs stubborn. A metabolic panel looks at electrolytes, sodium, potassium, and their friends that keep nerves and muscles talking and checks kidney function, which helps your team decide how to balance blood pressure control with cramps you'd rather skip. Vitamin D is a quiet player for bones and muscle. If you've been indoors or avoiding dairy, knowing your number makes the next step obvious. B12 matters for nerves and appetite, and can drift low under the influence of acid reducers or metformin. When toes tingle or meals shrink themselves, it's worth a peek. Thyroid hormones, especially TSH, can tell you why muscles feel flat even when breakfast behaves. If muscle pain shows up loudly and without a clear reason, creatine kinase can reassure or direct traffic. If weight loss arrives uninvited, you deserve attention unhurried. If walking predictably pricks your calves at the same distance, an ankle brachial index comparing pressure at your ankle and arm can reveal narrowed arteries and turn random walks into purposeful intervals that build stamina safely. If swelling chooses one leg, arrives with warmth and tenderness, and refuses to listen to elevation, a venous ultrasound is the flashlight you want today, not next week. None of these replace the routine. They sharpen it. This is also where your little diary becomes a companion instead of a taskmaster. 2 weeks of lines: what you ate, when you moved, how you felt, which pill landed where, what time the shower turned hot. Give your clinician something far more precious than a number: context. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're trying to make cause and effect visible. The day you wrote coffee alone, hot shower, woozy at sink matters, because the day you wrote water first, small shake, shower after, steady, turns into a plan rather than a shrug. Prevention beats repair because prevention doesn't wait for a crisis to act. It acts when you still have choices. Food swaps only work when they taste like something you'd serve a friend. Crisp toast can still appear if it carries hummus, sliced tomato, and a sprinkle of pepper instead of butter alone. The hummus lends protein, and the tomato lends the kind of brightness that tricks your palate into forgetting the salt shaker. A baked potato split and filled with cottage cheese and chives tastes like it should arrive under a silver dome without borrowing trouble from your arteries. A salmon salad made with Greek yogurt rather than heavy mayo, tucked into a lettuce leaf or rolled in a half tortilla, is picnic food for a living room. A bean and barley soup that says yes to tofu or shredded rotisserie chicken can live in the fridge all week and answer your hunger without wrestling. The point is not to win a nutrition contest. It's to put muscle material in your mouth in a form your jaw accepts and your stomach greets, morning after morning, until standing feels more like standing and less like climbing. There are days movement sits in the back seat because caregiving drives. The routine still fits. It just hides in the seams. You drink your water while the shower warms for someone else. You face the window for 60 seconds while you lay out socks. You march the hallway while oatmeal thickens on the stove. You pour 2 bowls or blend 2 shakes and split the protein between you because energy is the best gift you can offer. If you miss your measure in the first 15 minutes, measure when you remember and note it. The body forgives honest imperfection. If the day steals your walk, you do 4 minutes after lunch. Calves wake with the same gratitude in the afternoon as they do at dawn. Resilience beats rigidity because resilience survives Wednesday. If the question is weight, the answer is quiet. Protein in the morning settles the day's hunger into a more humane shape, trims the raids on the pantry, and helps your evening plate shrink itself. Pair that with a short, repeatable movement routine, and the scale often moves without drama, or the belt hole remembers you kindly. It's not a promise. It's a probability bent in your favor by layout. The glass that catches the counter's square of light. The yogurt you pulled to the front. The shoes pointing outward like arrows. The phone asleep in the kitchen, so the lamp gets the last word. A word for salt, wine, and screens, because they live in American houses and will not be evicted. Salt is a carpenter that builds flavor. It is also a foreman that hires water to ride in your bloodstream. Let herbs, garlic, pepper, lemon, and vinegar do more of the building so salt can keep its job and stop moonlighting. Wine can sit at your table. A glass of water beside it makes it a duet rather than a solo, and your morning protein completes the trio, so appetite doesn't tilt toward pastry. Screens are marvels and thieves. Give them a curfew and let the lamp tuck you in so appetite, and sleep obey the sun instead of a rectangle. You don't need to be good. You need to be consistent, and consistency is easier when your house has your back. Muscle rebuilds in kitchens and hallways. It rebuilds in apartments with thin walls and in houses with wide porches. It rebuilds in wheelchairs and behind walkers, and at the tops of stairs that used to feel longer. It rebuilds in winter, with breath puffing against the window, and in summer, with sweat negotiating under a hat. It rebuilds when breakfast stops being a ceremony and becomes a habit spoon. Sip, sit, stand, rehearsed until your hands can do it before your brain is fully awake. It rebuilds alongside heart health because legs that work invite days that move, and days that move invite vessels to behave. It rebuilds when you stop trying to be a person who fits a brochure and become a person whose house is arranged for your real life. Think of 3 small scenes you can reenact tomorrow without new equipment. Scene 1. The chair stretch while the kettle hums heels down, toes up, a soft tug in the calf, then the opposite, breath that moves like a slow tide. Scene 2. The bowl you actually finish a skyr scoop with peanut butter and berries, or a tofu scramble warm enough to fog the window if you hold the plate too close, or a cottage cheese shake that tastes like a milkshake sensible cousin. Scene 3. The walk that respects the weather hallway laps with fingertips skimming the wall, or a store aisle where laundry soap becomes your scenery, or the block with the mailbox that still leans because no one has fixed it yet. Add the same cup of coffee beside that food. Add the same lamp at night. Add the same note on the fridge where you write 3 words that keep you honest. Your body won't ask for extraordinary. It will ask for ordinary, repeated. Along the way, the same calm red flags stay in your pocket where you can reach them without panic. Chest pressure that spreads or refuses to leave. Breath that becomes work at rest. A new weakness, droop, or trouble finding words. One calf that turns hot, red, swollen, and very tender while the other is fine. Those are reasons to be seen today. Most mornings will never meet that list. Knowing it lets you stop guessing and start living. Some outcomes will be private. The way the jar lid sighs sooner. The way the curb loses its indignation. The way the afternoon stops threatening a nap you didn't want. Some will be public. The neighbor you catch up to. The grocery bag that doesn't ask for 2 hands. The laugh that doesn't need a chair. None of this asks you to perform youth. It asks you to practice a routine so small it could fit in a pocket, and so steady it changes the way the day feels. Protein that suits your mouth. Light that tells the truth. Steps that open doors in your veins. Coffee that behaves because it has company. Medicine that helps because it learned the right hour. A house that sets you up so tomorrow doesn't begin with searching. At night, return the pieces to their marks like props that make the next act simple. The cuff where your hand will land. The glass in the stripe of light. The yogurt on the front shelf. The tofu thawing in the fridge if tomorrow wants a pan instead of a bowl. The salmon can at the ready. the shoes leaning together like old friends deciding which direction to walk. The phone asleep in the kitchen, the lamp promising to be the last light your eyes will see. Then you lie down and let all this ordinary goodness do what it does best: keep you available for the life you want. 10 days is long enough to prove that you don't need a perfect morning to make a better one. Think of it as a small arc that begins at your kitchen counter and ends in your calves, your sleep, and the way jars surrender their lids. The plan is not a boot camp, it's a set of scenes that repeat until they feel like you. On day one, you do nothing heroic. You set the stage the night before, glass filled and left in a square of stove light. Cuff where your hand will land. Protein moved to the front of the fridge. Shoes leaning together by the door. The phone already asleep in the kitchen so a lamp can tuck you in. When dawn leans on the window, you measure like you'd check a thermometer. Drink the glass you prepared. Let your eyes find the sky for a minute. Walk the minutes your calves request. And eat a breakfast. Your teeth and stomach, welcome. Skyr and berries with peanut butter, tofu warmed with mushrooms, or a cottage cheese shake that disappears like a secret. Coffee sits down next to breakfast and minds its manners. The day inherits the steadiness you just made. On day two, your body recognizes the opening scene. You pick a different breakfast without changing the rules, perhaps. Canned salmon folded with Greek yogurt and lemon tucked into half a tortilla, and notice how easy it is to finish. You jot a single truth in a notebook. Slept poorly, restaurant last night, hallway walk, no cramps. That note is not homework. It is a breadcrumb trail for later. By afternoon, your shoes feel the same as they did at breakfast, and the jar lid sighs sooner than it did last week. You put your feet up after dinner, not because you've failed, but because you have learned to answer your ankles before they complain. On day three, you practice small even when busy. The appointment landed early, and you're out the door, so you shrink the ritual instead of skipping it. You measure once, drink half the glass now and tuck a bottle in your bag, catch the light from the porch for 60 seconds, take 4 hallway passes, and make a quick Skyr bowl that rides in the passenger seat. Coffee rests until it can travel with company. The middle of the day where you used to wobble behaves as if someone laid down a smooth strip of pavement. On day 4, you meet weather that sulks. Rain makes a drum of the sidewalk and wind snaps the neighbor's flag. You do the indoor version without apology. Window light, hallway steps to a favorite song, tofu warmed in a pan until the kitchen smells like breakfast again. The calf pump does not care whether the doors in your veins open under maple leaves or under a ceiling fan. It cares that you repeat yourself. When evening arrives, you notice the sock rings are faint or absent. The weather did not get a vote. On day 5, you say yes to dinner with friends and let flavor be part of your life. The pot roast is salted just right. The rolls shine like small suns. The laughter is big. You pour a glass of water beside your wine because that is what a thoughtful host would do for a guest. And the guest is tomorrow. You don't punish yourself when you come home. You prepare. You refill the glass, lay the cuff in place, set the yogurt in front, and place the shoes like arrows pointing outward. In the morning, the top number rides a hair higher. You log it, drink, walk, choose protein, and watch the pattern drift back over the next days. Pleasure will visit again. So will balance. On day 6, you use evening to coach morning. 10 minutes before bed, you let the day land on a gentle off-ramp. Dishes, a wiped counter, a lamp, a page or two of something with sentences that end. The phone's blue light sleeps in the kitchen. This isn't virtue, it's engineering. The brain that wakes your appetite and tells your vessels how much to squeeze uses light as a compass. You give it a true north at night and a sunrise in the morning, and it rewards you with hunger on time, steadier pressure, and sleep that doesn't require negotiations at 2 a.m. On day 7, you travel without losing the thread. A hotel hallway becomes your sidewalk, a rest stop sky your morning light, a breakfast bar your protein aisle, hard-boiled eggs for someone else, a Skyr cup and peanut butter for you, or a small soy milk shake you blend at home and carry in a cold bottle. You measure on the nightstand. You drink from something collapsible. You bring the habit into a new room and watch the room stop feeling foreign. That is the trick of healthy aging. Turning borrowed spaces into friendly ones. On day 8, you fold caregiving into the ritual. You drink while you warm the shower for someone else. You face the window while you lay out socks. You pace while oatmeal thickens. You split a cottage cheese shake into 2 glasses. You write your numbers on the fridge later, when chaos settles. And you give yourself credit for not letting all or nothing erase something. Muscles and mornings both prefer something. On day 9, you study nuance, because it is the difference between toss and keep. Coffee behaves when it has company. The second cup belongs late morning, not as a chaser. Wine behaves when water sits beside it, and breakfast answers it the next day. Salt behaves when herbs, garlic, lemon, and vinegar do more of the talking. Medicine behaves when timing is honest. A diuretic on an empty, hot-showered stomach can invite a swoon. The same pill an hour later, after water and breakfast, does its job without taking the stage. A statin that comes with grumbles meets a conversation, not a quiet quit. You bring your 2-week map, and you and your clinician add small guardrails. Prevention turns into partnership. On day 10, you tell someone what you've been doing without a speech. I drink water first. I look at the day with my eyes, not my phone. I walk 8 minutes before I ask my legs for bigger favors. I eat protein that doesn't fight me. I still have my coffee. It learned its place. You are not asking for applause. You are laying a plank between 2 porches. The person who hears you may step onto it next week when their calves mutter or their jar refuses to open. That is how routines spread, not through lectures but through demonstrations. Evenings write the beginning of tomorrow, so let yours be simple and kind. When dinner leans salty because life tasted good, allow it. Then pour a glass of water during the laughter and another before bed. Your vessels can read the gesture. Walk after you clear the plates, even if it's just the length of the house. Calf pumps prefer dessert to be a stroll. Return objects to their marks like actors who know their cues. Cuff on the dresser, glass in the stripe of light on the counter. Protein up front, shoes together. Lamp on the list. Phone in the kitchen. If medicine must be taken at night, pair it with the same small steps every time, so your body recognizes the dance. Screens can say their piece in the afternoon. Let a lamp sing the lullaby. The nuance of coffee and wine and salt is not about guilt. It is about companionship and context. Coffee alone, especially after a hot shower and a dry night, can nudge heart rate and steal appetite right when older muscle needs a clear knock. Coffee after water and alongside protein feels like a friend. Wine alone can borrow from sleep. Wine with water beside it. In a night where the lamp lowers early and morning promises protein and steps, belongs to the story rather than derailing it. Salt lifts flavor and recruits water into your bloodstream. Give pepper, herbs, lemon, and vinegar the microphone more often, and salt can keep its job without overtime. These are not rules for a monastery. They are the house manners of a life you want to keep living. There is a short film hidden in ordinary days once this settles, and it's worth watching. The camera opens on a kitchen where the counter remembers your hands. The cuff squeezes and releases. Digits glow. Your pen writes them as if you were noting sunrise and temperature. The glass you filled last night tastes like a promise kept. You stand by a window where the sky is a kind grey that tells your brain the truth about morning. You walk the hallway to the tune of a song that knows your age. Your calves push blood upward. Vein doors open in sequence. Ankles decide to behave later. The blender turns cottage cheese and soy milk and cherries into something that tastes like a diner got better at listening. Coffee settles into its place at the table. Messages arrive and you answer them as someone who already made a good decision. Lunch happens because you didn't raid your own pantry at 10. The grocery bags feel less heavy, not because gravity changed, but because muscle remembered itself. Evening arrives with a stew that smells like memory. Herbs and lemon lift the flavor. A sprinkle of salt brings it together. A glass of water sits beside the glass of wine, and laughter stays long enough to be useful. The lamp becomes the moon. The phone sleeps elsewhere. The glass is refilled, and the cuff is set where a hand will land. The credits roll on a day built from acts so small they can hide in a pocket and so steady they change what tomorrow can be. If worry has been your default narrator, give it a smaller role. You know the whispers, and you know the sirens. Whispers slower steps, softer grip, A jar lid that resists. A calf that mutters after hours of stillness. Get water, light, steps, protein, and a note on a card. Siren's chest pressure that spreads or stays. Breath that becomes work at rest. One leg hot and swollen and very tender. Fainting. A droop or words that will not come get urgent care now. Calm is not denial. Calm is a plan you can live. You may notice a few things no camera can catch. The way your breath lands softer between sentences. The way the couch stops arguing at 3 in the afternoon. The way your hands trust the ladder up to the pantry shelf. The way the curb gives up its drama when you ask your leg to climb it. The way sleep arrives on a shorter leash because sunrise told the truth. None of this is a guarantee. All of it is more likely when your house and your habits are arranged to help. When you are tempted to chase a perfect number or a perfect food, return to the small set that actually moves a day. Water first, morning light. Minutes that ask calves to pump. Protein loud enough for older muscle to hear. Coffee that behaves because it has company. Screens that say goodnight. Medicine that comes at the hour it helps most. Salt that lets herbs do more of the talking. Shoes that grip. Floors that forgive. Rails that catch. This is not a reinvention. It is maintenance. And maintenance is the most underrated miracle in medicine. If this has felt like a neighbor speaking from a porch rather than a teacher at a chalkboard, good. That's how it should feel. Share what you've seen work. Tell a friend who thinks breakfast has to be eggs that your shake made the jar lid surrender. Tell a spouse who lives on toast that hummus and tomato on good bread feels like a new song. Tell the brother who brags about black coffee that his heart would rather drink it with company. Tell the granddaughter who worries about you that you've moved the glass to where the light hits it. These are daily habits for healthy aging that fit in American kitchens and on American sidewalks. They are exercises for seniors at home that wear slippers and still count. They are natural remedies that walk beside your prescriptions rather than fighting them. They are longevity tips written on grocery receipts and on the back of a note card stuck to a fridge with a magnet that has seen a lot of summers. The arc ends where it began, at a counter, a window, a hallway, and a plate. You arrange 3 objects at night: a cuff, a glass, a pair of shoes, and in the morning they keep a promise. Your muscles don't ask for heroics. They ask for a signal they can hear. Your heart doesn't ask for silence. It asks for rhythm. Your life doesn't ask you to be different. It asks you to be available. 10 days is enough to believe that. The next 10 make it yours.